Good morning, Victoria. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Good. I'm so blessed to have you here. I feel like this is an exclusive interview with Victoria Fink because we don't see you. You are an enigma. I'm noticing more and more you're starting to write and you have a blog, which is fantastic. But for anybody who doesn't know Victoria, she's the lovely wife of Adam Fink, who, if you don't know Adam Fink, I'm almost shocked. If you're watching this video to check out a testimony from a woman of the way, I'm assuming that you know her husband. And today we're here to get to know her. So welcome, Victoria. I can't wait to hear all about you. I know bits and pieces of your testimony because we've been chatting a bit. But if you could just kind of give people where are you now, kind of what's going on with your life as a mom and a wife and a ministry, and then we'll go back to how you arrived where you are now.
Yeah, thanks so much for reaching out and having me on here. Been feeling led to kind of step out of my comfort zone a little bit because I'm very comfortable hiding in the shadows a little bit, just behind the scenes stuff. But I do feel led to start speaking more on my testimony and just thoughts that I've had. And so currently, I am part of Ancient Path Revivals and Parable of the Vineyard ministries. They're sister ministries. One started by my husband was Parable of the Vineyard, and then we also have Ancient Path Revivals that was formed with Left and Right Ministries and several other just people from our local congregation that don't have like ministry names necessarily, but and we've come together and have a local fellowship here in Missouri and have on our hearts Ancient Path Revivals. We have a big tent. We do Hebrew Fest, music festival in the summer. And we just want to fish for men and women and bring them into the truth, reach out to our brothers and sisters in the Christian faith and church and bring them into the knowledge of the truth. And I have a lovely, almost 18-month-year-old little boy named Josiah. And I have my three other stepchildren, Marielle, Daniel, and Madeline. And they are, I'm kicking the table, they are 8, almost 10, and 6. So that's a big part of our world around here. And
Are they with
we
you? Are the older kids with you guys all the time or just sometimes?
just sometimes right now, that's one of our daily prayers is that eventually we'll get more time or all the time with them somehow. They love it here. They love this walk. They go to a private Christian school, which is our compromise to homeschooling, and so it's a blessing and not so much because of course they're doing all the Christmassy things and stuff, but we're able to teach them the difference and they know now. They know what the Bible says and then they know what it does not say. And so they're starting to get to the age where they're being like, "Wait, that's not what Daddy said."
It's such a different experience for those three kids versus what Josiah is being raised in. Just last night, Sarah Williams and I recorded that show about parenting in Torah. And
Mhm.
Sarah and I are in a similar boat, which is it's not a typical boat. It's more, I think most people I have around me on this walk are kind of like the family that you have with Adam, like, and there's a baby growing in there, and then there's, I don't know, some people have more kids that grow up in it. Whereas like for Sarah and myself, we had older kids by the time we found this path. So then like your stepchildren, it's like it's integrating all of this stuff with kids who are living essentially in two worlds, who for Sarah and myself, our kids also go to school. So it's like they're like,
It's
there's a
hard.
lot going on for those kids. It's very different than for your 18-month-old who's growing up and that's all he's ever going to know.
Mhm.
So it's a challenge and I mean it's a blessing that you're able to correct what they're learning out there.
Yes, and it's been a blessing in other ways too. Like we're able to teach them how to be a light in that place and teach them how to politely walk this walk among other people without being offensive at a young age where they're not offending and and they're not like going and telling another kid like, oh, you're eating pork, you're going to hell, you can't do that. And instead they know they don't eat pork. That's other people's families might not, and they can share with them why they don't, but we just have to really kind of explain. But I feel like that's going to be a positive because they're bold. And I know one of them, she comes home and she said, I told my friends about Yahweh's name today, and she said she's going to call him that too. And I was like, yeah, see, it's there's blessings in all things. So and she's in second grade, so that's cool. But anyway, not to go off too long on a tangent there, but another thing that we do here that's a little different is we do have intentional community,
Mhm.
uh, and that's been a huge blessing. Challenges, but such a blessing. When I say intentional community, I don't mean like hippie commune thing. Like we're structured. We have order. We have morning meetings where we go over our work day, and we have weekly Bible studies and discipleship meetings, and on topics like marriage, parenting, um, just recognizing that a lot of people did not grow up even getting basic instruction on life. Some of us didn't have parents and don't even know how to clean, and so there's just different things. We're really trying to get back to the heart of like how to really not just walk in Torah, but to conduct our everyday life also in a way that is set apart and doing things orderly and diligently and for Yah. But so that's pretty cool. Um, everybody has their own dwellings and all that. Just I know people like to immediately think of intentional community, it's something weird, but really we're all just kind of neighbors, and our fellowship building is here, and we work together, eat together often, and
Oh, I have goosebumps. That
uh
is my dream. I was just saying again in that show with Sarah, like that was how I lived much of my life, was kind of going from intentional community to intentional community. And I said, but it was like a lot of hippie stuff going on. I wouldn't necessarily
right.
know, but I have this longing for, like, again, in the video, I'm like, I just want to live in a trailer park with a bunch of Torah people. Like, I want out. Like, get me out.
Yeah, so it's kind of like a campground, and people who have campers,
Hey,
they
you,
have
you're living
they
my
have
dream, basically. That's amazing.
yeah. We're trying to do some things like building tiny homes and that kind of thing, and yeah, willing, we'll be able to have more infrastructure soon. Just not like taking new applicants, just I know everybody's been like, sign me up, like the people with that in their heart. But yeah, willing, maybe one day. We are praying about that. This area is we're blessed. I know a lot of people are on lonely islands, especially in places like where you're at, where there's just not other believers really. We're in the Ozarks where you can throw a rock and hit a Torah person.
Yeah, I've heard
uh,
this.
yeah, it's wild. It's awesome, but um, anyway, that brings me to last thing before I'll start back at the beginning. We do have a fellowship finder that we just
Mhm.
put out, and I just like to plug that whenever I can because there's already been so much interaction on it, and I've already had some positive emails come where people have found that fellowship they've been praying for years. So I will send you that link to drop in the comments if
It's
anyone's
wild,
interested.
and it's growing so rapidly. Like I said, my husband's been
Yeah.
on this walk for nearly a decade, and he said with those, yours wasn't invented yet, but with the other fellowship finders that were
Mhm.
there, like there'd be no one, and now they're just exploding like this. I mean, it was prophesied. We know this is what's happening, but it's for me just coming into this like a year and a half ago or something like that. I'm already watching it. Like I'm looking around like I can't believe this is happening. We're a part of this. This is not nothing.
No, no, this is it. I think we're if it's not if even if it's for our generation, these like our my 18-month-old who are being raised in this purely, even if it's for them, it's just got to be coming up soon. That brings me to the perfect segue into how I grew up. I grew up raised in a Christian home, multi-generational Christian home. The matriarch of my family was actually like the OG conspiracy theorist of our family. Like she had like the two-way radios, and the she listened to like Alex Jones and all this back in the 70s, all the different things, and everybody always thought she was so nutty. She had two different friends write her letters and tell her she had to move to the mountains. And she lived in Texas at the time. And so she's like, okay. And so she moves to Arkansas, to the kind of foothills of the Ozarks and the Ouachita Mountains. And that's where we grew up. And then as I became an adult, ended up in the Ozarks. And I told my mom recently, I'm like, you know what? I think Mima was onto something. I think y'all led her to the mountains that eventually led us to these even bigger little mountains over here. And she always was telling us, that Jesus is coming back soon. He's coming back soon. And she always had me like, I was always obsessed with Revelation as a kid. I'm like, I don't know what any of this means, but I feel like it's going to happen in my lifetime, like just from the time I was a kid. Maybe it's because my mom was telling me that all the time, but I feel that even so much stronger now. Like, as things are going on, I'm like, that's why it started then. Is so we would have these years to put in the work. And even if it is another 100 years, I look around and look at this movement, and we got a lot of work to do. It's kind of scary sometimes. We got to get some more love in our life.
I would
But
I don't want to tangent you too much because I no, I don't want to tangent you. We'll talk about it some other time. Yeah, we'll talk about it another time. I'm
maybe
just
it'll.
it might. I'm just curious about your personal opinions about timeline stuff, but that's
Oh,
okay.
yeah, I don't know. I just feel like it could
I
be.
guess I'm also like I don't want my grandma who just died maybe 3 weeks ago. She was very old and she was very Catholic, and I as a teenager was freaked out about Revelation and the mark of the beast and all this stuff. And I know people who grew up in like doomsday cults who are like always like waiting, and I don't want to be that. At the same time, I feel all of the bubbling, and I have a tough time as a mom of teenagers even trying to imagine what if they will have a future. You know what I mean? Like I'm at that point of almost I don't want to be scared about it because it's a beautiful thing, but when you don't believe you're going to be raptured out of here, you know that tough stuff is coming. Anyway, I just kind of I we can't know the timeline, but it feels so close.
I will say I don't know that I remember ever having like an anxiety about it. I always had like an honor or excitement feeling about it. Like, out of all the generations, what if it was this one? How cool would that be? Um, and I trust that the Father's not gonna bring us through anything he's not gonna bring us out of, even if it is hard. And I know that's harder to convey to a teenager. I don't really have much advice there. Just prayer, and he'll guide you on that. But
I'll take your advice for myself too, because I guess that's what I'm admitting to you and everyone else watching right now is that I do have an anxiety, and I think a lot of it is because I am so, like I'm working on building my faith and trust in the Father because I'm really, really new, So
mm,
I have all this head knowledge and I have my connection, but in terms of like really being convinced that, I'm not where you just described that you're at. So I can't transmit that well to my kids except through my mouth, But in terms of like them seeing how integrated the trust is, it admittedly isn't what I'm hoping it will be in a few more years. If we've got a few more years. Sorry.
it, I think it's a journey, a faith building journey. And as I'll get into, that trust, it isn't just a completely blind trust and faith. He's shown himself to me so many times and proven himself faithful. Um, so I grew up like in church, all every time it was open, every vacation Bible school, every church camp. In second grade, I came home from church camp and told my mom I had a dream I was going to be a missionary one day. And she's like, okay, sis. And now I'm like, I guess sort of, kind of. I'm kind of doing that, I guess. So that's cool. And it was all great, like, until I became a teenager and started to be like aware more of the fakeness and the hypocrisy and the mean girl clique stuff. It was youth group that did it for me and other girls. I'm like, these girls don't talk to me because I go to a different school, but I go to the same church as them. But because I go to a different school, they don't want to be my friend. That's weird. And it would just start with little stuff like that. And then it was like, okay, why do I see all these people here and then they're all like getting drunk on the weekends? Like, this math ain't mathin'. And so, but deep down, I never walked away from God. I always knew who my creator was. I just walked away from the church, but that led to a coldening of that relationship in general. Um, I got married really young and fresh right out of uh, high school, and it didn't last very long. It was a marriage that was just to get out of my parents' house as I was going through some teenage rebellion stuff too. But because I had that biblical foundation, I was like, well, I can't move in with this guy unless we get married. So we have to get married, and then it'll work out. Like, we'll just, like, he's a believer, I'm a believer, we can make anything work. That was very naive, but um so that didn't last very long. And as soon as that relationship ended, a man came into my life that was, I don't know, the time it was, I'm not going to say sent by the devil, but it was one of those things where it was like swoop in right in this emotional moment. Like, I guess rebound would be the word, but it felt like this perfect divine thing. I literally thought that he had been sent to me from God at the time. And it was the beginning of a lot of bad things in my life. At that point, I started getting really depressed. Um, I had already been dealing with, for just to back up a little bit, when I was 15, I was diagnosed with an autoimmune disorder that came from a HPV vaccine, Gardasil. It's a pretty well known one. And so from that, I got an autoimmune disorder that affects my liver. And the medications that I had to be on with that, the steroids and immunosuppressants and everything, made me even sicker. And then that made my like quality of life in general just go down. And I kind of got to this like, what's the point? Like, mopey, like, just whatever. I'm just not going to take the medicine. I don't care what happens, as a teenager. And it never really got better. It started there and never really got better from there. And anyway, so fast forward, this guy comes into my life and I just completely, I don't know, I just gave up. I just checked out. I started using drugs. I just wanted to escape everything that every day I woke up and I would just get high and go back to sleep and wake up and be like, ugh, and get high and go back to sleep. And he was doing crazy stuff and I was just trying to numb it all out. And that time period in my life between that relationship and my relationship with heroin was the drug of choice. My relationship with my mom also suffered. Um, the relationship with God was always like, that's one of those moments where I knew He was with me no matter what, because I would literally be sitting there in a room full of people and they're all talking about their beliefs and stuff. I'm like, oh, I'm a Christian. And they're looking at me like, okay, I just watched you do a bunch of drugs, but sounds good. And and I joke that I was always, I feel like your cat just popped up. I always joke that I was even a good I was a good person even when I was doing drugs. Like I didn't steal from people. I didn't rip people off and all those kind of things. And um I I think that's Adam and I have discussed that that's part of maybe why y'all was like, okay, I can work with that. Like let's just get rid
That's a
I can work
beautiful.
with your heart, you know.
I mean, the
Like you're
you didn't have a concept of what sin actually was, right? Because you were a good person, you were doing, which a lot of Christians and a lot of believers operate from that, if I'm good, I'll go to heaven. If I'm bad, I'll go
exact
to hell. But I'm a good person, so it doesn't matter if you're snorting coke, you're a good person.
right. I'm literally thinking back to those times and I don't think I ever was even worried about that. I
Mhm.
just because I constantly during this time I was in a constant state of being suicidal. Like every single time that I would go to do any amount of drugs, I'd be like, maybe this will be the time.
Mm.
Like it was dark. It got to be intentional. It was like, let me see what I can concoct to try to end my life. And there was one particular time, this is one of those moments where I know he was with me and protecting me, where I did an amount of something that should have killed a grown man and nothing at all happened, like it was just not real or something. And I remember getting so mad, sitting in the bathroom floor, crying my eyes out, yelling like, why won't you let me just die? Like I was so angry. Like I am stuck in this trap with this man that I can't get away from. I can't reach back out to my parents. I'm living in hotel rooms in Little Rock, Arkansas at this point. Like each night a different hotel room. It was so much chaos and disorder and just like I that's why I was just checked out. I was like, I made my bed, now I have to sleep in it. And like I said, I was just hoping that one day it would just end. And then everybody around me started to die. And I'm like, okay. And then a girl I was really good friends with was found overdosed in her hotel room. And then it became more real. And I was like, okay, I've been sitting here okay with this, but am I really okay with this? And I started thinking about my little brothers. I have three little brothers. I started thinking about them, especially the youngest one, and how I can do that to them. I was like, I got to get out of this, or this is me next. And I told the guy I was with, I was like, I checking myself into a treatment center. I found one in my hometown. It's a rapid detox 3-day program. I'm going to go do it and then I'll be back. And he was like, you're not going to come back. He's like, no, you can't go. You're not going to come back. And that was his biggest fears, that I would be gone. And I'm like, no, I'll be back. I need this 3 days. I got to get this out of my system. Then I won't want to do it anymore because I'll be over it. And then as I'm on my way there, in my head, I'm like, can't go back. I'm not going back. But I didn't say that. I knew I couldn't say that. I turned the car right around. And so I get there and I do it. It was like a rapid program. It was so rough. And then I went back with my grandma and eventually went back to my mom's house. There's a lot of in between. I tried to quit once and it was a lot of details I'll spare that aren't really necessary. But I went back to my mom's and I remember seeing the brother that I thought about during that, because he's younger and still living at home. And the look on his face of just like, who are you? Like broke me. It broke me. I was like, oh my gosh. I am the worst example. He grew up with me being like a second mom. And now he's seeing me sitting here weighing 100 pounds, puking my guts up, like, what am I doing? And that's what started me getting back to my Bible. I'm like, I have forgotten who I am. And um, started the repentance process. And um, then my other two brothers, I had to repent. I felt like I showed them how to party a little bit. And so they kind of were wayward during this time. And so I had a lot of guilt from that too. And then my mom, our relationship was so strained for so long. And that's, I would say, has been the biggest turnaround. Is now hardly a day goes by that I don't talk to my mom. She's like next to my husband, my best friend. Um, and just an encouragement for any parents out there who may have a prodigal child right now that has not returned. Don't stop praying, because I know my mom never stopped praying for me. She never gave up hope, ever. And that is probably the only reason. I mean, yeah, I'm sure there could be other reasons, but if it wasn't for her prayers, I don't know that anyone would have been interceding for me. And nobody loves you like your mom, so keep praying. Um, and to testify, also just update the rest of my family. Both of those other brothers are now on this walk. One's married with a beautiful family, and the other one is actually my roommate, still right now, and he's just a great young man, full of wisdom. Um, and then the youngest one too is turning 18, and he's on this walk. And my
So
parents are
that's a
both
much
walk.
better example, Victoria. That's a very good example to set for your brothers.
Yes, so it went from that to where we are now. The entire family is on this walk together. We do the feast days together.
Your
We
mom too?
Yes,
Whoa.
yes.
Wow.
And um actually what's super cool, and I don't people are gonna eventually know, my family all knows, my mom just found out she's pregnant.
Hallelujah.
And so I'm like almost 30 and gonna have a little baby sister, and I am so excited about that. I was like, I've been praying for 30 years for a little sister. This is
There
so
you go.
cool.
He delivered.
Having an 18-year age gap. And so that's just a cool little hope for any of you ladies who have not had babies yet. It can happen whenever you least expect it, even if you think you're going to menopause and you're actually pregnant, like my
Wow,
mom.
maybe it's me. Jesse and I don't have any kids. So.
Hey, it can happen. She was very shocked. We're real excited anyway. So yeah, mom's prayers, got back, started reading my Bible, and then I started getting awakened to all the conspiracy things and all
So
the
what year are we talking now?
2021.
It makes sense. That was the
Yeah, the year, the COVID, all that. Um, so when I was growing up, we didn't have TV. We would go rent movies and stuff. We didn't have like satellite. Um, and my parents did not care about politics. They did not care. We didn't talk about politics in our house. It just wasn't a thing. And so when I was a young adult, I still didn't care or have any idea what was going on without anything to do with politics. And then the whole first wave of the Trump train came around. And so when I come back home and got clean, I came downstairs one day and my mom is sitting here watching Fox News, and I'm like, uh, who are you? Like, why are we watching Fox News right now? This is crazy. And she's like, so there's like a lot going on here. And she shows me all the like trafficking, all the conspiracy documentaries, and that got me fired up. I felt like I had something to like live for and advocate for. And I went all the way down the whole Save Our Children, Trump train, QAnon, PSYOP stuff. It got me on fire for, yeah, for God again, in the process, but it also led me to the New Age for not a long time, but I got like hyper focused and dove all in and learned everything I could about everything, and thought I was going to be like this new age life coach guru. And I like took an online course and obsessively watched YouTube and learned everything about it. I had angel cards. I was like, these are cool. These are it's Christian witch talk stuff, you know, or all the that corner of TikTok where they're like, yeah, you can do all this. Jesus did alchemy, and you know, and you're like, oh, maybe I'm ignorant and don't know any of these things. I guess that could be true. Let me just learn from a 90-second video and pretend like that's good doctrine.
Complicated. The Christ consciousness thing is such a trap because we recognize the truth in Christ, and then we see in retrospect that the enemy just twisted
Yes.
it all up.
It sounds good because it sounds positive and emotionally like it sounds good. It's that false light though. And that's what I started to learn about. And so I'm watching YouTube about all these different things, and then I'm also reading my Bible. I'm also thinking that like I'm like praying to the Creator before I intentionally meditate or try to like do all the weird like out of body stuff. It never really worked for me. I had like a dream, the lucid dream thing. I had that happen one time unintentionally, and it freaked me out so bad that I was like, okay, this stuff is a little bit more real than I think I'm ready for. I'm gonna take a step back. And that's when I feel like y'all kind of was starting to give me some spankings and be like, all right, come on, reel it back in over here. I'm watching YouTube and this video just pops up, barely any subscribers, just this random guy. And he was Jewish, but he's talking about Kabbalah and this. And I'm like, I had been learning about Kabbalah because I was like, oh, the Jews, they're God's chosen people. Like, I'm gonna watch that. They got to have some idea what they're talking about, right? And like, they keep the Sabbath because I'm like, getting into this stuff at the same time, like congruently, because I'm
There's
reading
a
so
few
many
doors
different.
in, right? There's like a few different ways to get in there.
It's like a ninja obstacle course to get to the right one here,
Oh,
and so I'm like looking for messianic congregations near me because I'm like Sabbath, that's got to still be a thing here, but the Zohar, that's Jewish too. Let's look into that mysticism. That looks still feel good and exciting. And but this guy starts breaking down the tree of life thing that they have with the little weird symbol things. And he was breaking that down, how they call it the tree of life, like and the tree of wisdom or no, tree of life. And then he compared it, I can't remember the exact breakdown, it's been several years, but to the tree of knowledge of good and evil and showed the difference. And it something just hit me like a ton of bricks. And I'm like, oh, I've been eating that fruit. I don't want to eat that fruit. I don't want that. And I took all the cards, all the books, all the astrology, all the everything, all the crystals, burned it in a barbecue pit in the backyard. My dad's like, what are you doing in the barbecue pit? Look, this stuff's got to go. My
well,
mom's like,
praise God that you were
hallelujah.
able to see it in that way because I never got into Kabbalah per se, but
Yeah.
it's the root of all the New Age stuff. You know what I mean? Like you were there and then you could kind of see, I don't know where it would be. I guess if it's the root, it's down here, but you could see how everything was constructed from there and that
Uh,
it is not.
yeah, actually, shortly after that video, there was, it reminded me, I had, when I was in the QAnon thing, I had a friend that was just a Facebook friend that kept sending me this girl's video. And she's like, you have to watch this. Please watch this. I'd start watching it and she'd start talking against Trump. And I was like, blah, 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 and I'd hit click and I wouldn't watch it. But then when all this started clicking, I had the nudge to go back to that video. And it's called An Inconvenient History by
Oh,
probably Alexandra.
yeah, you posted that, and then that
Yeah,
brought me back to my very when I had started my Christian walk, I saw that video and it was a ton of
that breakdown,
yeah,
how
yeah.
she had the breakdown of all that and how the church split change. And so there, all that's happening. And then a video from a channel that's no longer active came up that broke down like how the Bible was actually like changed whenever it was westernized. Um, and then that channel linked me to Adam's channel. And when I found that and saw like all the extra biblical books and all these like 3 hour Bible studies, I am like, okay, this is what I want to watch. 3 hours to break down one little section. That's my nerd stuff right there. I love that. And I had notebooks full of everything. Like I'm watching this stuff, and it felt like I just felt in my spirit. This is what I've been missing and looking for my entire life.
You meant that on multiple levels because then you married him.
Yeah, I didn't even know that that was going to happen at the time. And I told him, I'm like, I really didn't even really know what you looked like until I met you in person, because you have like these big blue light blocker glasses on all the time and these big headphones like this big and beard. I'm like, I didn't even know what color your eyes were. But um anyway, so like whenever I dumped the new age stuff and he was finally like shining the light, like right there, it's right there. That's what you're supposed to be looking at. It was just so profound. I remember staying up till like 3 in the morning watching 119 Ministries videos, Parable of the Vineyard, Torah Family, and then I'm looking for a fellowship near me, and I look up and Torah Family meets 30 minutes away with Steve Mutria. And so I feel like that was a really good like foundation to get to build off of. Steve's fellowship was great. He's a meek man, and Adam actually, that's one of the few people that will sit down and watch together sometimes, because we don't have time to watch a whole lot of stuff, and he is mostly reading and recording his own stuff. So it just but so I started with Steve and kept my first suit coat in 2021. But I would say it started back a little sooner because I kept Passover that year, but Sukkot was just my in person feast. And what was so interesting is I'm waking up to all this, and um, my mom, every day, I would just come and info dump everything that I learned that day on her. And so she's just like, okay, I'm just going to watch and see. I've been watching you go through some stuff here. You thought we were made by aliens last month, so we're just going to watch and see. We're going to watch and see wherever this goes. And so eventually she saw the change in me from where I was at to the like she was real concerned when she knew I was doing new agey stuff. I think she said she was praying almost as hard then as she was when I was on drugs. She was like, "Oh gosh, this is spiritual death." And so I came back around there, and she saw the fruit and the actual joy and peace in my life. And that is what has led to now my whole family walking in the way. And so it got close to Easter time in 2021, and I am like getting ready to have the talk. And I'm like, all right, guys. So I don't know what the family's plan is this year, but I'm not going to be participating in Easter. I'm sorry. I can't. It's pagan. I can't do it. And they're like, what? And I just kind of told them the facts. And my dad was like, let's do Passover then. I was like, okay, let's do Passover then. That sounds great. And they weren't like fully on board with all the everything else yet, like the food laws and all that. My mom was before my dad, because she'd been listening to me and had been kind of quietly reading on her own. But my dad, he was like, I knew that something wasn't right about that. And I remember when we were growing up, we went to a bunch of different churches at one period in our life, like, because I guess what I didn't know as a child, they were trying to find somewhere that made sense to them, because they were seeing stuff like the Sabbath, but they would get the pastor answer. They would see stuff like my mom said we didn't eat pork for a while as kids. But then my dad got the answer from a church about the hand washing Mark 7 thing, and it was just, like, okay, never mind. And I remember going to a congregation that blew shofars when I was a child for a short time, and they weren't messianic or anything, they just had shofars. But they always had that kind of pull and longing in their heart. And when the funniest part was when I told my dad about Christmas, and he is like, "Sweet."
Mm.
He's like we always called him the Scrooge, like low key. He hated it. He's like, "I hate this." He's like, "I feel so much anxiety and so much pressure, and I have to work so hard, and we already can't afford stuff just to make sure I'm buying the right thing for the right person, and then hoping they're excited that day, and then they open their stuff and they're like, eh, and it's like I hate it." He's like, "I'm so glad we aren't doing this anymore." He always had a problem with the star on top of the tree. He's like, "I feel like it should just be a star." Like, we never did Santa or Easter bunnies or any of that. It was always the Christianized versions, but they always had these questions. And like, we still did the tree and stuff, but he would put an angel on top or something. Like, he was like, "There's just something not right." He was always trying to figure it out. So whenever the answer was it's just not a thing, he's like, "I'm not crazy. I knew it." And so now I don't know how many Sukkots and things it's been for them, but only a year or so less than I have. And I know that is a big testimony for people, or can be, to people who you are the only one in your family. Like,
I am
and
covered in goosebumps. I cannot even believe that. That is so beautiful.
my Nana before she passed, and my mom's mom is
That
starting
Mima? Which one is Mima, the conspiracy theorist?
Mima passed away a couple years ago. She was my great grandma.
Oh, right.
But
Yeah.
my mom's mom is starting to walk in the way the most that she can in her situation. And my dad's mom, before she passed, was walking in the way. And before that, she was like obsessed with watching Ancient Aliens and
Mm.
all this stuff. But she spent the last year or so of her life following Torah.
It makes sense so that people who are going to gravitate toward those, I went through my alien starseed phase too. It's that we
It
are
seems very silly now, looking back. Like, I don't know where that logic came from, but it made sense at the time.
seeking, right? It's not,
Yeah.
we're not, I think the switch from one thing to this path, even New Age to this path is not that difficult sometimes because you are seeking, and we're
Hmm.
told that if we seek, we will find the truth. Whereas people who are, if their religion is, NASA or whatever politician, they're not really seeking
Right.
spiritual truths the way that those of us who get into tarot cards, like, we're looking for it, we've been detoured, but we're looking for it. So when you did finally see what he was flashing that light down on, you're like, ah, of course, it's just you
Mhm.
can wake up and understand.
Right.
Right.
And like, I can tell you the one thing I did not do to my family. I was not there's a fly that happens to Adam every time he tries to talk. It's like the enemy sends flies in my face. Um, I did not beat them over the head with my Bible and condemn them. I did not do that. I did not do what you see on Facebook all the time of sharing just this random meme with no context about how Christmas is pagan in the end. I didn't do that. I was loving with them. I let them ask questions. I walked my walk respectfully to theirs. I still went to my grandma's house with her Christmas tree in there and just ignored it. I didn't make a big deal about it. I didn't do any of those things. And the fruit of that has been they've saw my fruit and we're drawn to that.
It has
And
to be because the amount of people who have cut ties with their family for having for not immediately
yeah,
drop, you Matthew Jansen, we Jesse and I did a recording with him about marriage and remarriage and stuff, and he just put up a clip. This was we did a while ago, and just yesterday or something, he re-put out that clip where he was just talking about how when you come onto this path, imagine you're married and you come onto this path because you finally saw in Leviticus and Deuteronomy not to eat pork. It's unreasonable to assume that your wife or husband is going to see it the same time that you see it. Just like it's unreasonable to think that my mother-in-law is going to take her Christmas tree down this year, you
right.
know? So what? I'm going to show up to her house and burn her tree down or like refuse to go and see her during the holidays? No way. I'm not going to miss going to see her for the world.
Hmm.
So
Right.
I think your gentleness is this is 1000% what anybody who's new to this path, who's super stressed about Christmas this year, it's okay. We can still choose not to do these things for ourselves and not like blast everybody else with it.
And then on the other end of the spectrum, what I see so much of is what I've kind of deemed the boomerang effect, where people do that and then they come all the way back around and they completely are okay with Christmas now. They're
Yeah,
like,
that's
no, we
funny.
need to love. It's fine. We need to love our family and just go anyway and have that dinner with them and do all these things, and it's okay to give them a gift, and it doesn't have that's that's bouncing all the way back to the other end of the spectrum, and the road is narrow. We can't go to the right or the left. And
When you said
that's what
that, I
I
was thinking of ditches, right? We can start in one ditch, and then like you talked about Kabbalah too. It's like so here we're in the Christian ditch. We come up to here to this path that I think you and I are on a very similar path. Then people do discover Judaism that maybe they didn't know it before, and then they find Kabbalah, and then they fall right into the ditch of Judaism. It's not funny, it's horrible, but it really is. We have this space to walk in and we need to understand what is of Yah and what is not of Yah and what is for us and not for us. And that includes, I believe that includes these holidays.
I do too. And again, with what going back to what you were saying about um just truth seeking, and what is the truth? The Torah, Yahusha, both of those together. Um and what I see a lot of is people truth seeking, but they can't be content with the Torah.
Yeah.
They can't just stop there and be content and meditate in that day and night. It has to be the next dopamine rush, the next high, the next conspiracy, the next knowledge discovery, the next thing that they've discovered to be pagan that they can remove their life. And it's all outward appearances of righteousness. And
I guess it's hard for many people to know where to stop, though, right? Like I was saying to a client of mine, she was going to an Episcopalian church with her. I'm in Canada now, but she married an American. At the beginning of their marriage, they were going to an Episcopalian. So she has lots of questions for me because she knows I'm a bit different from your average Christian. And she was asking me loads of questions last night, and I was happy. I was really able to express to her what I believe. And oh, Victoria, I lost my train of thought. Oh, it was so important. What was the thing you said just before that? I am a squirrel too.
about, about contentment and not getting into different doctrines that and not stopping at Torah, but getting
Ah,
into
yeah. So I had told her when I first came to Christ out of the New Age, I was like, ah, Jesus is the end of the rabbit hole. Thank God I'm done searching. And then I did realize that Jesus is the beginning of the rabbit hole when it comes to actually understanding the truth. That's what I'll say. So then you find Jesus, you keep walking, and then you're on the Torah path. And it's like, I guess I'm just saying that for those of us who come in through truth seeking, it's difficult to know when to just rest in it and like, okay, this is enough, guys. He is the way, the truth, and the life. The Torah is the way, the truth, and the life. This is all we need. We don't need to add now, like the Pharisees. Like, let's just do this. But I think it's hard
right.
to.
So I came in through conspiracies too, and from just early on, I think of verses like in Ecclesiastes to fear Yah and obey His commands. This is the whole duty, and not in fear as in revere, respect. Um, and keeping His commandments is loving one another and doing all those things. And um, I was thinking about this the other day actually, and we've stopped using the word Torah terrorists so much, and we call it more of the Torah toddlers. And it's like you come into this walk and as a babe, and you're like, yes, let me, like, I'm watching all these videos and reading and reading and reading and getting all this knowledge and throwing out everything, like with this just thirst for the word, right? And then you become a toddler, and then you start just throwing stuff around and like yelling at people. And I'm thinking of my toddler, he's a screecher. And so you just start having these kind of toddler behaviors with people spiritually, and then you can come to this place of like childlike faith. And but then as you become a teenager in the walk, what I'll see happen is you either start to rebel and getting into these different, like, well, let me start questioning even more, like, is this manuscript really real? um was this really what that said? Is this really what that word meant? um did Elohim really say this? Like all that stuff. And it's okay to explore and to test all things. But I think as we grow into maturity, if we're not rooted and grounded to be able to stay on what is important and to know and have the wisdom to, even if you are looking, like, even if you're studying things out and looking into different things, to realize the power in our words and just loosely saying things we don't fully understand, how dangerous that can be, leading people onto snowballs of their own faith. And this whole deconstruction movement, I feel like people watch one YouTube video, share it in emotionalism, and start a whole like trend of people walking away. Like there's a documentary going around that I'm not going to get too much into because I don't want to make this a controversial thing, but it's being used as the basis for like a pretty big movement right now within our movement. And we had several people send it to us and tell us to watch it. And we're like, all right, we're going to watch it just because we know where people are coming from on this. And we're thinking it's going to be, somewhat biblical. And it is completely made by these two new age dudes. And everything in it is talking about the Christ consciousness, Jesus, not the Hebrew Yahusha, Yeshua, or like whatever. It is all literally talking about Christ consciousness in it. And symbol it, like, it was a little bit ridiculous, and it was crazy and sad to me, the lack of discernment in the body to take information like that for what it says it is, with no, I don't know. It was that kind of stuff really grieves me because I don't know. Anyway, I'm kind of going off on a
Admittedly
tangent
too that
on that.
you do have, I don't know what documentary you're talking about, and that's the kind of thing I have a hard time watching because it's just like PTSD for me because I was in that world for so long. When I came to the church, I was trying to help the people around me understand the dangers of the New Age for exactly that reason. And we were fellowshipping with a Messianic guy who was studying with a Jewish rabbi who used the word Kabbalah in a positive way. And I just went like, oh, I scared my cat. Oh my God. See, I said the word Kabbalah and she jumped. Sorry, sweetheart. She was sleeping and I put my hand. That was weird. So I heard the word Kabbalah and I just jumped like she just did now. And it's because when you lack that knowledge, that line between, all the Jewish mysticism and all the stuff that has that allure, if you don't know where to cut it, oh, it's so
So
slippery.
am seeing all these people in Torah start to drift that way, and because my route was not Torah, then that it was that. I see all the red flags and I'm like, run away, don't do it. Um, just don't do it. The other, what else did I just have on my mind? Oh, and then conspiracies. It's like you have to realize they never stop. That the rabbit hole really never stops.
Mm.
And it just gets darker and darker. And um, Lyndon actually from Left and Right Ministries just shared a message either last week or the week before about conspiracies and how they really like you can get lost in them. And it says it's a shame to even think or to speak on the things that are done in the darkness like this. Everybody likes to quote, to expose the deeds of darkness and all this, but if you read on, it says it's a shame to speak about them. And then some people, that's all they want to speak about.
Well, it's it and it shows where is our focus? Are we glorifying the kingdom of the Most High? Are we glorifying the one who is running the world here?
Mm-hmm.
But it's a fine balance because of course we do need to know what's going on. We do need to understand how pervasive and how evil and how twisted the enemy actually is. But then I don't think we can put our focus there because then we just get lost in it, you know.
But uh, be wise as serpents and harmless as doves, right? Um, and I feel like so one thing that helped me a lot, I think, not to fall as much into the toddler phase for too long. I definitely went through it. We all do. Um, is I got off Facebook. Y'all led me to get off Facebook for the first few years of my walk, and part of it was because every time I got on Facebook, I was seeing horrible things written about my family. And so I was like, I'm just not getting on the internet anymore, ever. And I didn't get on Facebook for a few years. And then one day I had the, like, I'm like, maybe I think I'm going to make another Facebook. And I'm like, get behind me, Satan. I'm like, I'm not making another Facebook. And the next day I kept thinking, I'm like, I know my flesh doesn't want to make a Facebook. This isn't like a social media addiction that I'm going back to. I do not want to make a Facebook, which tells me I should probably make a Facebook. And so I did, and I realized, okay, that this is why. It's a jungle out here. And but getting off during that time and not just posting, back to what I was saying about learning something and then just instantly turning around and sharing it without taking time to study and pray and fast and meditate on these things. That I think that's important. The book of Sirach says if you don't know about something, to literally put your hand over your mouth if you don't fully understand something. I think that's an important principle. I read when I first read that, I'm like, okay.
Just the idea of bearing false witness, like that takes so many different forms, and it's so easy to do on Facebook, whether it is resharing something that is inaccurate or, gossiping about somebody. Facebook just lends itself to bearing false witness. It's happened to me. I've had wild accusations about my personal beliefs that I never even shared those beliefs with people and being accused of it publicly, like, get a life. What are you doing?
Oh,
So
trust me, I know. And the uh the bearing false witness, it's just more of the fringe doctrines like that get out there, like anti-Paul. That is something that almost swept me up. And Adam is actually before we were together, his stance on that, he said something that stopped me in my tracks, because when that first wave of that started coming around, I was like on my absorption sponge mode still, and I started to kind of get that, and it stopped me in my tracks. Started talking about bearing false witness and the repercussions of that on Judgment Day if we're wrong, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to not read him until I'm more grounded. And now, after being a few years of leading assemblies and um, seeing more like ministry in action, Paul makes a lot more sense to me from the perspective that he was as a um, evangelist, uh, as what he did. I feel like we do a lot of those things sometimes when we're going out and coordinating fellowships and trying to do that kind of stuff. And we're kind of trying to church plant. And so seeing that, seeing the breakdown and the different dynamics of fellowships and the different arguments that come up in the different cultures make his letters make sense. I'm like, I know exactly what he was talking about right there. I have seen the women that he's talking to right there about not talking. I've seen that and I agree with him. And so just things like that. I feel like a lot of things really could be solved if we just spoke less and had more of a like bounce, let's bounce our ideas off of Yah and scripture a little bit more than YouTube videos and Dead Sea Scrolls.
It hit me with this holiday stuff that I do think one of the reason that people do it, maybe myself included, is this need to be like affirmed or approved by our peers. And it just hit me like, who is more important? Is it more important to you that your peers agree with you or that the Most High agrees with you? You know what I mean? Because if there's a conflict there and you've got to choose between what he approves of and what you think that your peers approve of, there's a big problem.
Right. And
I think
that,
often people do post looking for the likes or looking for the affirmation that they're right and their beliefs are right, including the anti-Paul people who I
mhm,
systematically delete now if I see anything like that. Because that's another ditch, right? That's exactly how you get from
that's a
Christianity.
diving board
You do
into a
that.
mud pit,
Yeah, exactly. Well said.
is
Once
what we've seen.
you get rid of Paul, you get rid of the New Testament, you get rid of Jesus, you don't need a Messiah.
People go anti Paul, and the first thing they say is, I'm not going to do that. That's
Yeah,
putting me in a box.
yeah,
And the last thing they do is throw out the Bible.
yeah.
I've seen it countless times. And so I caution you if you're starting to go down that road. It's dangerous road. It puts a seed of doubt. That's what the enemy wants to do, is plant his little seeds of doubt so he can snatch up the seeds of truth that were planted in you. And because once you have that little bit of doubt, like, well, what if this was changed, and what if this was changed, and well, what if it was just all changed? Okay, well,
And
might as well throw it at all.
I don't know about you, but I get people in life, coming and not wanting to get on board with even opening the Bible because they do realize there has been some corruption, just like you did when you stumbled upon, what
Mm,
you did. And I just try to, and it's hard if you don't have an understanding of if you don't know anything about the Holy Spirit, it's a very hard concept to believe that our Father was able to, for the most part, maintain a comprehensive Bible. You know what I mean? That's what I try. I'm like, yes, some things have been put in big brackets, including thus making all foods clean. That was the translators that add that. Yes,
mm.
they rearrange. Yes, they remove books that are so oh my goodness. Jesse and I were reading Second Esdras the other day, and you read it like, whoa, no wonder they took that one out,
Yeah, the
so when
good.
people understand that there is corruption, it's the throwing the baby out with the bathwater situation where they don't, well, it's like, no, Satan has his hand in everything all the time. So you can't throw everything out. You need to use discernment and prayer to understand that the majority of this version, whichever translation you've got going, most of it is good, most of it is what
Mhm.
it needs to be. You can't throw the entire Bible out because human beings and Satan have tampered with it. We need to keep praying and reading.
And the more in tune you are with the Holy Spirit, the more discernment you have. And I feel like for me anyway, when something doesn't sound like necessarily in alignment with the truth, I feel like I haven't always needed that to be like written in black and white. For instance, like with the extra biblical books, when we're testing those, people are like, well, how do you test them? Does it teach you away from Messiah? Does it teach you away from the Torah, for one thing? And then for two, just as I'm reading, I instantly know if a book just makes me feel yucky, and I'm just like, no, we're just gonna close this one. And then there's some that I read things and I'm like Sirach, just to be, just for a less controversial example. when I read that, I'm like the stuff that isn't confirmed in scripture already, like an explicit second witness, things that are like a new idea. I read those and I'm like, that feels that I get the same feeling I did whenever I started learning about Torah. I'm like that uh, that resonates with me. And if you are in tune with the Spirit, the Holy Spirit, those things should resonate with you. And
Yeah, I totally understand what you're saying. I resonate with that. That resonates with me. But again, it's a hard thing to describe if you, I mean, it's an impossible thing to describe if you
you can't
I
teach
don't know
it or
what you're talking about. I wouldn't understand what you were saying just now, but I do know, and it's the same thing with people and, with different situations you're in, your spirit knows if you're meant to be in that situation or
mm-hmm.
not. And, before maybe we'll call it intuition or whatever it was called, your spirit knows.
Right. But you have to have the oil in your lamp and to really be connected with the Spirit and to be rooted and grounded and at peace with the Torah and not to have any pride in our hearts is really important too. Just I'm just sitting here reflecting on the different topics that I'm seeing lead people away right now, and I go back to Paul with like knowledge puffs up, um, and then in Psalms, the meek he will guide in his way and show the truth. You have to be able to be humble and to accept the things that don't quite make sense. And even if sacrifices seemed a little bit barbaric, like you have to be like submissive enough to understand that the Father had a design for a reason. It doesn't have to always make sense to us. And just a verse to kind of for the last thing I was talking about, like with being in tune with the Spirit. I think it's a similar reason why Paul talks about like there's a lot of people who keep most of the law without reading it. You know what I'm talking about? I don't know the exact reference, but um and like so like in the Christian church, there are a lot of people who keep most of the moral law just naturally because they do have that spirit.
Hmm.
It is leading them in the ways that they're walking, but they just haven't opened the door to unclean food yet. I have so many people I think of that they love Jesus with everything in them, and you can see it. And I'm like, they haven't even been shown the truth. And so I literally have a second Facebook account that is only for my like hometown friends and family that I don't add in. This is sad. This is tells the state of this walk and what at least my husband and I are on a mission to try to help people get over and through is I don't even accept people on this walk on that Facebook page because I don't know what someone is going to say that could turn them off from this truth and hurt my witness to them. Like I've got a few people that I've been praying for years and gently ministering to that are like long-term projects, if you will, that I know the value of them finding this walk would be so good. And I know that they could be receptive to it, but I also know how easy it is to just make somebody stop up their ears. And so I literally have to like gatekeep around these certain individuals to keep other people from coming in my comment section and telling them that they're going to hell because they said the word Jesus. And, that's just an extreme example.
Well, it's a good and it's a pertinent example. It's actually how my husband and I met was that I had used the word Jesus and Jesse swept in and he was like, back off, like it was really, it's really what happened.
That's
I was told
funny.
I was going to burn in hell for using the name Jesus. I still use it because I am also still trying to speak to people who know the name Jesus. That's my hope. If
Right.
I,
Yes.
you know, and the
Uh,
conversations that come from, anyway, it's just a
oh,
mess. And I do think we're all doing our best, and we do have our toddler phases, and we do throw those tantrums because it's so frustrating to see people we care about. You want to shake them awake, and we can't. That's the Holy Spirit.
no, no. And all we can do is plant seeds and let him water. He's the gardener, like the master gardener, and we're just workers in his vineyard, right? So, yeah, that's just the, I guess, final little thing that I don't know about final, but just thing is with the just being all things to all people, what that really looks like. It's not going to the bar with your friends on who drink just so you can go witness to them or whatever. I think it is recognizing sometimes you have to speak someone's language. Like saying Jesus to someone with the truth mixed in, or talking about like the Sabbath, for instance, and using the term Jesus within your conversation could be so much more fruitful than the opposite of that, and just turning people completely off and making them think, oh, you're preaching, there's no other name. You have to recognize that that's most people's understanding. There's no other name by which you can be saved. So you're immediately making them plug their ears because they think you're preaching a different Messiah. And it's not about the name of the like Adam. One day he's going to redo his video because nobody watches to the end where he explains. But he has the famous Jesus Antichrist video that everybody takes what he did not say and says that Jesus is the Antichrist. And what he explains is the character of like the Roman Catholic, like hippie Jesus versus Yahusha, and that actual dynamic there. And that's what we're trying to bridge and help people
It's a
understand.
very subtle thing. When I first came to Torah, somebody did this big blast, like this big horrible post about me on their own wall, calling me out for, I don't even didn't even know the person. And she was accusing me of believing that Jesus Christ was the Antichrist. And I was so new that I didn't even understand the accusation. Now I totally get it because people twist, like I know what you're saying, but again, like unless you get it, you're not going to get it. The point is the Jesus Christ character that is the Jesus character that's sold in the churches, the lawless Jesus that is sold. I guess the way I say it is like the man in the Bible that they call Jesus is our Messiah.
Right.
Our Messiah. But the other version of him, which is lawless and which, said we can eat the pepperoni pizza, that's a lawless version. That is not our Messiah.
And what is even deeper of a connection is that lawless Roman version goes back even more ancient than that. That is the exact entity that the New Age speaks of when they say Christ consciousness. That is the ascended master. They call him Sananda, Sananda. If anyone wants to look into that to see an actual photo of what they say that is versus your Roman Catholic Jesus. And that's why this Christ consciousness mess, it's the same deception by the same Hasatan. It's
And it has to be, right? Like the deeper deceptions of the Bible have to be in line with Christianity and a false version. Like that's what it is. Like who cares about all these other things it could be? It's going to be the closest looking possible.
looks like a lamb but speaks like a dragon, right?
Yeah,
It's,
it's chilling. And it again, it's very, very, if you have scales, you will not see it. And it means that many of the people we know who are doing the Sunday church thing don't really understand the deception that they're sitting in. Oh my gosh, it's so heavy, Victoria. And like again, like what can you do? I sound like a crazy person to everyone I went to church with. The pastors made sure that I sound like a crazy person. That's a whole other thing. It's so hard. I think it's just at the end of the day, it must just be praying that their eyes will be open and praying that they want for their eyes to be open.
and
Because so
I think
many of them, they love, I mean, they love Jesus. We know that. We know that they've had life-saving transformations because of his name, But again, that's the beginning of the rabbit hole. Now you got to keep walking just a little bit further. Don't go too far. Just go a little bit
Right.
further.
Not too
The
far
law
this
was
way.
not nailed to the cross. Now what?
In elementary school, I don't know if how it is for you. There was a line of tape down the middle of the hallway, and all the kids had to walk on the tape, not like a herd of animals down the hallway. On the tape, stay on the line.
It's funny
Um,
though, because because I have had that image in my mind of a tightrope, and it came to me when I was watching people do the crazy sacred name thing. You know what I mean? That they were really saying you would go to hell if you use the name Jesus or like even Yeshua, like, and unfortunately, the craziest crazy name doctrine people use the same name that you and I use.
I know, and so everyone, of course, ties that back to Adam's followers, the sacred name cult. I'm like, if you watch his videos, like he literally speaks against that in like almost everyone. Because it's toxic. And what does that say about what are you saying about the character of Yah when you say those things? Like he's merciful and forgiving, and love covers a multitude of sins, except if you didn't pronounce my name right. Whoa. Like that's I'm not gonna sit there and act like my father is that cruel. Like that's not cool. Yeah, so it's a mess out here, but we're trying to do what we can, and that's why it's so important, not just for the Christian brothers and sisters that we have in Messiah, but even for everyone, and why the call is really so simple to fear Yah and keep his commandments is because the more that we walk with him genuinely out of a pure heart and uh, sincerity and truth, the more we will look like him and emulate him and draw people to us like a moth to a flame. And they will ask questions. Um they will be curious. Like you said, your friend knows that you're a little bit different. She has more questions for you. Um we Two more thoughts. I don't know how long you have, but so one thing our fellowship has started doing is we have an outreach ministry, and we've gone twice now to the downtown square in Springfield, and just played music. We had some of the people from Hebrew Fest that are local, Simply Prodigal, Adam and Jake's band, and Lyndon and Ruth. Even we spaced it throughout the day to where the crowds would match the
Oh, they're my favorite band
entire
in the entire world. I love left.
right? Yeah. So we had them kind of play during the day, and then towards as it got darker, we had the rock play, and I'm like, everybody in towards like, why are you playing that music? I'm like, because we have all these people out here bobbing their head to the verses of Revelation and not even realizing it. And we're being able to just feed people. And someone came up and said that I don't want to sound like we're like boasting. I'm just talking as an example of what the power of this walk can really be. That we were the most active and genuinely like we genuinely cared, and they could tell. And and that's the difference in just like Christian churches doing stuff to do it and doing stuff because we care. And then the other quick example that I had, because I hear my son arriving, is just like the way that we dress, even like with modesty. I know that could go down a whole video on its own, but just one quick testimony I had coming into this walk, and like you said earlier, doing things to try to please other people. Um, it wasn't intentional or even what I noticed until hindsight, being 2020, is I was just kind of naturally like I started dressing almost, I joke, like Amish. Like it was only like long skirts and like plain, no printed, like baggy. It looked like I was wearing like trash bags around almost. Like nothing really fit right. It was all just I looked drab, like I didn't care is really what it looked like, but I thought I was being like modest and all this. And I realized one day, like, why am I doing this? Why am I dressing like this? And I kind of softened up. Then I started wearing jeans again, and I'm like, I don't really like jeans. Then I started dressing how I like again, and realizing, you know what, there's nothing wrong with this. Like, it's okay to have like a tie dye skirt on. That's okay. And it's okay to just have a little headband like this on and not like yours looks cute, but whenever I wear my hair like that, it's like a big ridiculous looking. I'm like, I feel like now I'm doing the headdress thing that Peter talks about.
No, you look so beautiful, but you look like yourself, and I think that that is for me coming to Torah. I was not in the Christian church for long, but when I was, I felt like I had to do stuff in a certain way. I
Mm-hmm.
took out my nose ring and like I was doing things in a certain way, and then when I came, I was like, oh, like I can just go back to
Yes,
how I was, and I don't need to be legalist, you know.
right. But
I can do.
there's other fellowships we've been to where I feel I walk in and I'm like, oh, I'm I'm not like I'm. This was when I'd be wearing pants or something, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't feel like I'm even allowed in here. I feel like I'm breaking the dress code. And and then but the big thing, what I wanted to get to is going out in public. How much it hurt my witness to hide behind like this weird, not myself, pretending to be something that I wasn't thing. The difference when I started just being authentic and real, I was more comfortable like talking to cashiers. Like they're more comfortable talking to me. They're not like, who's this weird like religious lady? Like we're able to the grocery store we frequent, they know Adam on a first name basis. He talks to everyone everywhere. Everybody's he knows the managers at like every not restaurant, every grocery store we go to. He's like, "Hey, can you guys get this special random snack ordered?" And it's because he just talks to people and has built these long-term relationships. The lady at the bank, they just know about our lives enough in passing to see that we are kind, to see that we're loving, to see that we're patient when the line's long, to see that to just see the fruit. And then whenever we get to the counter, oh, what are you guys getting all these groceries for? Oh, we're having a big music festival, praising our Messiah and our Creator, and these organic things happen. And then that same cashier the next time, how did your music festival go? And it's like, and then we have one the next year. I want to go next year. You know, it's the long game. It, like back in the day, they didn't have everything wasn't digital like instant everything. It was relationships were time. Like you didn't just send a text message. You had to go see them in person or write a letter or send a pigeon or whatever. Um and so I think just slowing down in general in our lives is important, but that's where we've had the most fruitful divine appointments is what we call them, is whenever we go out and are just authentically living our lives, not trying to go preach or go around blowing shofars in people's faces yelling repent for the kingdom's at hand. Just going and showing them that there's a better way. There's a way out of the rat race. There's a way to have joy even when there's you've been waiting in line for 20 minutes and your baby's screaming. Like that's what draws people is, wow, why are they so happy? Because people are sad, people are stuck. Looking around at the outreach thing the other day, it just reminded me of when I was in that time. And I remembered, like I said, I wasn't a bad person then. I wasn't hurting other people. I was hurting myself. I was hurting my family's hearts, but I wasn't going out just sinning against people, robbing them and stuff. It was a heart internal issue. And I needed to feel that closeness with our creator and that love. The love is what brought me back in. And so, yeah, that's just I feel like we're a broken record on that. It's just we've got to love each other. It doesn't matter what calendar, It doesn't matter how you pronounce the name. It doesn't that's kind of been the heart of Ancient Path and Hebrew Fest, like in general of our mission, is getting people to unite under like true unity, not like the worldly unity, but realizing that we are one body. We are supposed to be a chad, and it should not matter what shape the earth is in your mind. Like none of that should matter. I've seen fellow people completely stop fellowshipping over no reason other than, well, we start our Sabbath in the morning now, so we're not gonna come do this anymore. And or we're keeping our Sukkot a week sooner now, so we're never gonna see you again. We only saw you once a year before. And it's just so sad. And my first Sukkot, I kept it twice. I was like, I want to keep it with all you guys and all you guys. We're doing it twice. And I know that's obviously not practical for everyone, but I've never felt like this anxiety either about like, gotta have the calendar right or the
I think
name.
so, Victoria, for whatever reason, it's because like Jesse and I are on this kind of kick of seeing spirit and law everywhere all the time. And some people
Yeah.
come to this path and they're very law, 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 and they let go of the spirit and they can't discern for themselves. You know what I mean? Like we have to know the heart of our Father. And for me, I'll go to I'm blessed to have friends who a rabbi who has a messianic congregation, and there's a lot of stuff that is not what I believe, but I can go and I can do some of the biblical feasts with them and be in the only community that I have
Mm,
anywhere near me. You know what I mean? And if I was in a different mindset, I would not go in that congregation. But I love it there, and they're my friends, and they receive me and they treat me very kindly. And I think we're supposed to, these divine appointments are, or however you call them, we're supposed to be with people as much as we can. And for some of us, it's not easy. So when I have the opportunity to be with people, I don't care what day it's on. If my calendar is a little bit off by a day or two or even a week or two, I will go if I can. Because
right.
that's the spirit, right?
Ministers of peace, right? And it is the balance of spirit and truth. And um so one thing I've noticed is a lot of the times people will put the relationship that they, in their eyes, they will put on to Yah, our Heavenly Father, what their experience was with their physical father.
Yeah.
And if they had someone who expected perfection and who expected like all of this, then they can have a little bit of trauma responses in some ways. And it's fear-based salvation. It's fear-based works. It's not I'm doing this because I love my father so much that I want to please him and keep his commandments so I can show him I love him. That's his love language, right? And it becomes more of a, if I don't do these things, I'm going to be condemned to hell. And so it does become this fear thing. And that's why a lot of people are acting out in this way. It's not intentional. And it's out a lot of the times, it's out of a good place. They believe they're being watchmen or women, but a lot of it is fear that it stems back to, and rejection issues and all of those things. And so I encourage anyone who does not have a good relationship with their father on earth, or didn't, if it's not, if it's repairable, repair it. If it's something that needs prayer, it needs prayer. If it's just whatever it is, pray about it. And everybody's situation is unique. I'm not going to try to give anybody advice on that. But reevaluate your, read your scripture, read the character of our Father through the lens of who he says he is, and take that, not what your idea of a dad is from whatever you got dealt with this life. And then just finding ways to forgive them. I was adopted when I was 5 by my stepdad, and he has always been my dad to me. I didn't know my biological dad until after the point I was 5, and then until I was like 16. And there was a lot of hurt and identity issues there, but a lot of that was able to be overcome by forgiving him and realizing and just putting myself as I got older. One day it hit me. I'm like, wow, when I was this age, my mom and dad were having me. And I can't imagine having a kid right now. That must have been really hard. And then I thought about the example that he had with my grandparents, and it was just kind of a rigid, not very affectionate home. And I'm like, he never was taught how to love. That's sad. And I was able to empathize with him and realize, you know what? He did the best he could. Signing over the rights to me was loving me in his eyes because he knew that he couldn't do it right. And that's my personal experience or situation. Everyone, like I said, everybody is different, but just being able to find that empathy and compassion to forgive them releases so much from you. And I think that is really how we can get to the root of these issues that are causing. Because if you have that secure relationship with your head, the father, and then your husband, and then can walk in that, that will really unlock a lot of shalom and peace in your life. So with that, I'll stop
Yeah, I'm
talking.
gonna cut you off. For someone who doesn't talk, you sure talk a lot.
I know.
It's been a treat. Thank you so much, Victoria. I'm glad that it's been a while we've been talking about doing this, and I'm glad that you guys could
Yeah,
organize to have the time. It's like talking to an old friend. It's
yeah,
very, very nice to have gotten your story and get to learn more about you. And I know that this is going to bless many people. You have had just your own personal story, but the I almost want to say advice or the guidance that you've given because you've been in it. You know, you're in the thick of it in the size of ministry that you guys have. It's not a You've seen a lot and been through a lot, and thank you both for all that you do. Uh, Adam's teaching has greatly blessed myself and my husband, and that trickles out into the people that we know as well. We talk about fruit, and this is the first time I'm speaking to like this, and I've never spoken to Adam, but Adam's fruit is obvious on. It's just obvious that he blesses many people with his teachings, and he is well, you guys are doing something very amazing for many, many people. So
praise you.
thank you. Thank you so, so much. And I'll let you get back to your family for the day. And I'm gonna go find my little kiddos. And
All right. Thank you so much for having me, and it was a pleasure speaking. Would love to talk more in the future.
yeah, me too. Thank you so much, Victoria. Have a great afternoon.
You too. Shalom.